They called it the Gravemaw brood, the deadliest species in the quadrant. Worlds burned when their shadows passed overhead. Yet when a lone human engineer stumbled upon 3 of their newborn hatchlings, crying and shivering inside the wreck of a crashed nest ship, he didn't reach for a weapon. He reached for his jacket. No one in the galaxy saves dragon hatchlings, not when their kind once reduced cities to ash. But this human did. And what followed rewrote everything the stars thought they knew about mercy, loyalty, and fire. If that opening gave you chills, stick around, because what happens next will change how you see both humans and monsters. Make sure to hit like so this story reaches more sci-fi lovers, subscribe for more powerful HFY tales every week, and don't forget to share it with someone who believes compassion can conquer even cosmic fear. Ready to dive in? Let's go. The ship hung broken in the thin air of the red moon, its metallic skeleton jutting out like the ribs of a dead beast. Corporal Daren Voss should have walked away. Every sensor reading screamed Gravemaw origin. Every protocol warned, exterminate on sight. But when he forced the airlock open, he didn't find monsters. He found 3 trembling shapes, small as cats, covered in ash and silver scales that shimmered faintly in the dark. Their eyes, bright molten gold, stared at him, not with fury, but with fear. One let out a sound, not a roar, a whimper. Daren froze. His mind flashed back to the ruins of Keldon Prime, the colony those dragons burned to dust years ago. He'd lost his brother there. He should have hated them. But now, standing in the silence, all he saw were lost children in a dying ship. He tore off his field jacket and wrapped it around the smallest one, its tiny claws dug into the fabric, clutching it like warmth itself. "Easy now," he whispered, surprising even himself. "You're safe." Above them, the stars flickered like watchful eyes. Somewhere the universe held its breath, because a human had just saved the children of his greatest enemy. Days passed on the barren moon, and Daren learned quickly. Raising alien dragon hatchlings wasn't heroic. It was terrifying. They were growing fast, too fast. The smallest one now had wings strong enough to knock over his entire field tent. The biggest, the one he called Ashwing, had begun to stare at him whenever he ate. Not just curious, hungry. He scavenged nutrient packs, ration bars, even recycled oxygen filters to keep them alive. Every bite he gave them meant less for himself. But when he watched them curl up together, their scales glimmering softly like embers, he couldn't stop. Something primal told him they understood. One night, a storm hit. Radiation lightning tore through the sky. The hatchlings wailed, their cries echoing through the canyon. Daren wrapped his arms around them, shielding their fragile forms beneath his armored jacket. "Shh. It's okay," he whispered. "I've got you." When the storm finally broke, he noticed something impossible. Small burn marks on his armor, but none on him. The dragons had curled their tails around his body, creating a living shield of their own. In that moment, Daren realized they didn't just need him, they were protecting him too. Word travels fast in the void. One distress ping from Daren's shuttle, and soon the Galactic Command picked up his signal. At first they thought he was dead. Then, when they saw the thermal scans, 3 living Gravemaw signatures beside a human, they sent a warship. "Corporal Voss!" The voice crackled through comms, cold and formal. "You are harboring a Category Omega threat. Step away from the hatchlings immediately." Daren stared at the distant gleam of the warship in orbit. His gut twisted. If he obeyed, the hatchlings would be vaporized. If he refused, he would. Ashwing lifted her small head, growling at the sound. The others huddled closer to him, trembling. They didn't understand the words, but they knew fear. He switched his comm mic off. "You're not taking them," he muttered. Moments later, the sky ignited. A warning shot struck the ridge, shaking the ground. Rocks rained down. One shard sliced across Daren's cheek, but he didn't move. He grabbed the hatchlings, stuffed them into his cargo sled, and sprinted toward the canyon caves. Behind him, the stars roared with engines and fire. Ahead of him, a darkness waited, deep, ancient, and pulsing with something alive. Deep inside the canyon, the air shimmered with faint heat. Strange carvings lined the walls, spirals of fire and wings, symbols older than any known species. The hatchlings stirred, their scales glowing faintly as if the markings were calling to them. Daren set them down and raised his scanner. The readings made no sense. Ancient energy, dormant for millennia, reacting to their presence. Then, a sudden pulse hit him like a heartbeat. Images filled his mind, planets aflame, dragons screaming, and humans, not fighting, but fleeing. He gasped. The Gravemaw War wasn't born from hatred, it was survival. The dragons had been driven mad by a weapon, human-made, that corrupted their neural paths, twisting instinct into rage. Ashwing stepped forward, pressing her snout to his chest. In his mind, her voice finally broke through, a trembling whisper of thoughts and memories. We were made monsters. You were made killers. Daren dropped to his knees, realization hitting hard. Everything he'd been taught, every battle fought. It was built on a lie. He looked at the hatchlings, the last of their kind, and said softly, "Then we fix it. Together." Outside, the warship's engines grew louder. The galaxy was coming for them. The warship's cannons lit the sky. Daren stood before the cave entrance, armor scorched, pulse pounding. Behind him, the hatchlings trembled, but their eyes burned bright. He raised his rifle, knowing it wouldn't matter. He wasn't fighting to win. He was fighting to protect. A voice boomed through the comms. "Final warning, Corporal, step aside!" He didn't move. Then came the roar. Not human, not mechanical, ancient. The hatchlings rose, their bodies now surrounded by light, pure fire, pure will. Ashwing let out a cry that split the clouds. The energy that had slept within the canyon awakened, spiraling upward in blinding arcs. The warship froze mid-air. Its hull groaned as dragon fire, not burning but cleansing, wrapped around it. Systems failed, engines died, the ship drifted, powerless. Daren dropped his weapon. The hatchlings landed beside him, heads bowed. "No more war," Ashwing's voice echoed. "No more lies." And for the first time in recorded history, the Gravemaw fire didn't destroy, it healed. When command arrived later, they didn't find an enemy or a deserter. They found a man standing among dragons, both species watching the same sunrise, as equals. And that's how one human's act of compassion changed the course of galactic history. He didn't fight for glory. He fought for truth, for understanding, and for the chance to break a cycle that had burned for centuries. If that story lit something in you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who believes mercy can be more powerful than fear. Because sometimes, the smallest act of kindness can turn fire into light.